Hello, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about Excel and Visual Basic, or VBA. And if you go to the course website, you can click on this module here. And there's some helpful tools here put together by Dr. Tree. And you click on that, it'll take you here to a little cheat sheet. And now that you've gotten experience with Python, these things should be familiar to you. If else statements and a number of these things here that are on the sheet, one of which may not be apparent is declaring types for your variables. So you have to do that in a number of programming languages, C++, for instance, and as well as VBA. So here's the different types you can have. One of them which you may not be familiar with is variant. That means you declare it and use it, and at the time of use you specify if it can change, but it can't change to a string. Some other things you can look through the sheet in more detail, but things I'll point out, there's arrays and ranges. Notice that you specify it with the dot notation for a given range and its properties. We're familiar with that. Python is similar in that way. Loops, our favorite. For I, you start and then you go to the end and you can do some things. There's do while, do until. There's also, you can do for each in a range. And I think I'll show you that. Here's some functions you can set up. Here you have to typeset the function so it knows what value type it's returning. In this case, sum is a double, and then it returns the same, whatever you name the same variable as, it will return that. And subroutines, this is something in Python, this might be a function that you could call. So these two have similar functionalities. Here, like, you call the subroutine, and similarly, you don't have to use say call, but you just use the function name, like right here. So subroutines and functions are very similar. Debugging, that's one of the downsides of VBA, is it doesn't have good error catching ability. We'll see that maybe if I make a bunch of mistakes. I go through this example. I'll go through a couple examples that are hopefully straightforward. Oh, before I do that, message boxes, you can have those pop up, and it's like a little pop-up window that gives a message. And there's some other helpful functions. So here, let's go over to this sheet here, and I'll show you what we're going to do. So we're going to program this little calculator. I have a cylindrical tank, and I want to know, is it going to overflow? I have a radius, a height, and a flow rate into it, and the time for which I'm going to let that flow rate flow in. Well, you can't really look at this and say, is this going to overflow? So there's a little calculator inside when you push this button that will tell you that. So yes, it will. Tank will overflow. The volume of the tank is that, and the volume of the liquid is much greater. Cool. We'll also look at this one. So I can fill some colorful cells. Let's say I want to fill 5 cells, the index from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the color index of the cell is that same index number. So color index of 5 is blue, and 1 is black, and so forth. And maybe I do 25, and there's 25 different colors. What about 250? Should we try 250? Subscript out of range, meaning there's not more than 56 different colors. Anyway, so maybe in our code we could limit this to 56. Not in this example, but anyway, let's do this. So first I'm going to do a new sheet, and let's just say here's my fill number, and I'm going to put, I don't know, 4. Now I want to open my VBA tool, which is done by going to View and Macros, View Macros, and then I can just hit Edit, and it will open up all of them basically, but I have a few extra sheets opened, but the one I'm going to work on is this book number 3 right here. Notice that it names it, this is sheet 1, and the name of the sheet, which is given right here, is sheet 1. And so I'm going to just double click right there, and there we go. And then I can hit a subroutine. Usually you have to refer to it this way starting. So let's go fill down. Fill down, we'll just call that down. Notice it creates that name right there, fill down. And let's read in this value into my VBA code. So I'm going to go sheet 1.cells. And the row index is 3, and the column index is 2, and the value. So I'm going to say that value is going to read into this variable. Let's do fill num equals that, and I have to typeset all of my variables. So fill num. Let's say, I don't know if this is going to be a integer or a decimal place, so I'm going to have to type this as a variant so that it'll just figure it out and dimension it accordingly. And then let's make sure I did that right. So let's just set cell1 cells. Let's do the next row down, value equals fill number. So I'm just going to read in that 4, and to make sure it read it in, I'm going to fill in the number right below it with the same number by running the code. Let's see, we'll just run this. Twink. Hey, it showed up. There it is. That worked. Okay. Now, what are we going to do? Let's do a loop for I equal to 1 to fill num. And then I have to go next I, and I can put in, let's get rid of this. Maybe I put it in here. And I'm going to put in, maybe I go 5 plus I, and set the value to I. See, this is going to work. And we have to dimension I. That's going to be an integer, which is long. And let's see. This is going to work. Let's see. Oh, it did. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. And let's try, let's see. Let's try, now what? Oh, we were going to color it too. So let's say sheet 1 cells. I guess I could just copy the, copy this. And instead of the value, we're going to do internal and color index equals I. See if that worked. What did I do? Interior. Oh, I think I got interior. Oh, there we go. Great. And let's say in case I wanted to print more, let's first clear all the cells. So let's do sheet 1 range. Let's do B4 to B5000. I don't know. And just clear. We're just going to clear everything. So now, if I change my number to 2, it should clear everything except for the 2. If I didn't have this here, then you can comment it out by a single apostrophe. If I don't have that there and I go 5 and hit run, I have to be outside of the cell to hit run. And now I change this to 2 and hit run. it's not going to get rid of 3, 4, and 5, so I have to have that clear in there. So every time it runs, it'll just clear everything. Okay, cool. But where's my button? I want a button. So let's put a button in here. Insert text box, and I'm just going to draw a text box and put fill down color full cells. And I'm going to make this a little bigger and bold it and maybe color it blue. And then I'm going to go right click on here and I'm going to say assign macro. And we're going to do sheet 1 fill down. Okay. Now when I do 6 fill down, push the button, it did it. 2. Perfect. All right, let's do our calculator. Maybe our calculator over here. Calculator for cylindrical filling. I have a radius. I have a height. And what else do we have? Flow rate in, and time, fill time. So I can put some numbers in here. There we go. And then I could make this look better, but for time-wise, I'll just say volume of the cylinder and volume of the fluid. And there we go. And I'm going to make these a calculator. I can set my button up here. Set a button with my text box. Insert text box right here, and maybe we just call this calculate, please. Increase my font and color it. I didn't spell that right, did I? Calculate, please. So let's go ahead and build that. So I can make a new subroutine. Sub calculate. Let's see, what are we doing? Calculating the overflow. And let's read in our values. So this is radius. And sheet 1 cells 6. And what number is that? Is that 10? Value. And then I'm going to do the same thing for a bunch of other ones, right? So this is going to be height. This one's going to be flow in and fill time. I dimension all of these. I can dimension these rad, height, flow in, fill time as, what do we say? Double. Great. Now let's calculate our calculate volume. What is it? Volume. So let's go sheet 1 dot cells. I can. It's maybe easier if I do the range. J11. J11. Dot value equals Let's do rad squared. So we got 3.1415 pi r squared. Didn't like that. I'm not sure why. What does it say? Syntax error. So notice that you can step in here, but it just says inside this error there's a syntax error in here, and you don't know what is wrong, which is really frustrating about VBA. So I've done something wrong here. What if I just do this times rad? Hey, it liked that. So it didn't like my squared. Notice when I click away. So I'll do that pi 3.14159, right? Something like that. Pi r squared divided by, or no, times our height. That should calculate our volume. So let's see if that works. Oh yeah, there's our volume. And now let's do range J12 value. This is the fluid volume. So we're going to do what units are we working on here? So let's say M, these are meters, and this is meter cube per hour, say, and this is hour. We'll make this easy. And so my fill is just flow in times fill time, and that's the volume of the fluid, right? That went into the tank, whether it's in the tank or out of it. So let's run that, see if that worked. Hey, yeah. 5 times 4 is totally 9. What's going on with that? 5 times 4 is not 9. What did I do wrong? Flow in times fill time. 5 times 4 is 20. And it is saying it's 9. How is that even possible? Oh, notice I made a mistake. Hey, our logical error right here. Cell 1's not, I got them all the same, so I don't want that. I forgot to do that. So 7, 8, no, yeah, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now we should be good. Oh, good, perfect. Now, let's put a little message box. So let's do an if statement. If, oh, we need a variable. Let's do dim cell volume. As I could put this on a different line too, like this, or and fluid vol. Then I'm gonna rearrange this really quickly. Cell vol, and then cell vol, and let's do fluid volume. So flow in times fill time. Fluid vol, and I can say if fluid vol is greater than my cylindrical volume, then I can do end if and message box. Is that how I do it? I think so. Overfill condition. Let's see if that works. So it ran. Oh, let's assign this here. So let me right click and say assign macro. Let's do my calculate overflow. So if I change these numbers, does it work? Yeah, it's working. 4.3. Yeah. And let's do our higher fill time. So, oh, there it went. Overfill condition. Overfill condition. So overfill condition. And I can do else. Where'd it go? Else. Message box. Not overfilled. And good. Now I can run this. Overfill. Reduce my fill time. Not overfilled. Well, I hope you enjoyed that exercise. Have a great day. God lives and loves us.